There can be no life without order. Good, evil, darkness, light. There must be balance in the universe. Such is the decree of the chart.
Hey fellows, Navy here, and welcome back to another Gaminlogia. Yeah, it's been a certain while, but I'm back, so here we are. For today, I'll be talking about Darksiders II, an action-adventure hack-and-slash game that came out back in 2012. It follows the tale of Death, and his journey to help his brother named the Warrior, who was stuck in judgment by the Chord Council. I think that was the main premise. Anyway, this game is absolutely amazing. I enjoyed it so much as a kid, even though I wasn't in a targeted age range, but I still enjoy it to this day. So, unlike all my other Gaminlogias, I'll be talking about this game sometimes from my memory, which means I'll do a good bit of research. I'll also split this video up into categories. I will link any background footage in the description and all that other stuff. So, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Now the story. If you want a decently proper explanation, you can go watch a highly detailed video about that. But from research and from what I remember, Death goes to visit the Crow Father about the Tree of Life. But instead they fight, Crow Guy dies, and gives the souls of the Nephilim to Death, his kin, stuffing and embedding it all in his chest. He then passes out, wakes up in the land of the Makers, and questions them about the Tree of Life. They tell him it's surrounded by corruption. So he does a few quests, resurrects the Guardian, corruption, fights the Guardian, which is, by the way, such a beautiful boss fight. Anyway, the Elder resurrects the Guardian once again, which then the Guardian destroys the corruption. Death moves along to the Tree of Life, only to learn that it isn't the destination. He also sees an entity that Death realizes only to be Absalom, a person who had slain that is also his kin.
Pale Rider.
He then awakes at the land of the dead. This goat-looking guy named Ostergoth tells Death that the Tree of Life is only a portal to other worlds, and that he needs to find the Well of Souls. Death then does a few skelly bone beatings to then make his way to the Eternal Throne. Up there, he speaks with the Lord of Bones Chancellor, who informs Death he needs to kill the champion in the Gilded Arena and bring back its skull. Death agrees, and of course he wins. He then speaks to the Lord of Bones about his troubles, and he agrees to help Death seek the Well of Souls as long as he brings back the 3 dead lords. After this long, arduous, boring quest, Bo just straight up end their suffering as punishments.
You have forsaken your duty. I have no more use for you. What is this? I don't like being toyed with.
He then gives a little power up to Death, which allows him to split his soul. The Chancellor tells him to enter the City of the Dead, to which he may find someone to speak to. This someone turns out to be the old, late Crow Father, who informs him he needs a key that is split in 2 other parts to enter the well. One half are kept by angels, and the other by demons. He ventures to Lost Light via Tree of Life, an angel territory that has one side of the key. An angel named Nathaniel tells him to speak to the Archon, who sits his ass upon the top of the Crystal Spire. Death then soon meets up with him, and the Archon explains that he needs a route of Arafel to clear a path to the Lost Light Citadel, where the half of the key lies. So he sends Death to Earth where the rod is, and he comes back out with it. Oh yeah, he also meets Uriel, who might be a crucial part of the overall story, or not. In the Citadel, he engages with the scribe who tells him that the key lies with the Archon, and after feeling betrayed and hearing that, he obliterates the Archon in a duel, which is also a pretty good boss battle. He obtains the key and traverses to Shadow's Edge to find the other half of the key, guarded by the big, old Samael. In the castle, he encounters Lilith and has a little talk with his, I guess, mother.
You are Death. Where you ride, no one is safe. Not even your mother.
You are not my mother.
She aids him by giving him the power to travel back in time, since Samael was still good and kicking back then in hell. Death and Samael engage in a fight, since Samael wasn't willing to give it up so easily. Death is victorious, and Samael hands it over. He heads back to the Wells of Soul, uses the key, and encounters Absalom. He then absolutely destroys his kin once again in the battle.
Take my hand once more, brother.
Once Absalom was defeated, the first ghost of the Crow Father tells Death that he must decide to bring back humanity or resurrect Nephilim, which is his kin.
You may tap the power of the well to return the kingdom of man, or you may resurrect the Nephilim. But know that choosing one will forever doom the other.
My brother wore. I would protect him above all.
To return man to the earth will require a sacrifice.
He chooses to bring back humanity and help his brother, thus sacrificing himself.
And the seeds of humanity will be sown. But death's journey was not ended. And the number of the riders shall ever be 4.
Oh yeah, also Lilith gets destroyed.
I await your punishment.
This time, Lilith, you will get no pleasure from it.
Well, that about sums up the story. Let's talk about the combat. Now, the combat of Darksiders 2 is a beat 'em up, hack and slash type of thing. You have a primary and a secondary. Primary weapons are always sides, and secondaries are whatever, hammers or claws. There's quite a few combos in this game, but you gotta buy them from either that Maker or Draven. I didn't really alternate between many of them because there were some combos that did way more damage than others and were easier to pull off. Or I should say moves, but whatever. I'd say a bad thing about the combat is no dodge offset or something like that. Better explained in White Light's Darksiders 2 video. You also had a skill tree where you could choose to be a necromancer or a full-on offense type of guy. You also unlock abilities as well, but they cost Wrath, which you could think of Wrath like MP in an RPG. In my playthrough, I found that having an equal balance was the best, but a little more heavily leaning towards the necromancing side. You also had this ultimate form where you tune into the Grim Reaper, which is also shown in many executions. The combat might seem pretty simplistic on the surface, which it is, but it'll feel pretty satisfying once you really get the grip of it. What I also enjoy are the enemy types, except the despicable angel bitch. But yeah, some enemies require some type of technique to kill them faster, or just to kill them, which could change your playstyle depending on the enemy variety. And the bosses were mostly entertaining to fight against. I liked how some bosses required you to use special mechanics and abilities that would use in the dungeon, which the final boss should have included. There is also this bloody palace type thing called the Crucible, which really does test your skills and abilities, which I could only get to level 50 because I suck total ass. But that's all I have to say about the combat in this game. So let's move on over to the gameplay part. The overall gameplay of Darksiders 2 consists of traversal, combat, puzzles, and exploration. You could compare it to something like Zelda since there's a good amount of dungeons, puzzles, and a whole lot of opening chests. It's a good action-adventure game in my opinion since the main focus isn't just the combat but rather everything, and it all fits pretty nicely together. Although, the puzzles in this game could either be insanely challenging or pretty simple. For the amount of exploration, I think there were about 5 worlds: the Forged Lands, Land of the Dead, Earth, Shadow's Edge, and Lost Light, with with really 2 of them being the main worlds. There might be more though, but with that being said, I do have a few problems. Bugs are still very much prevalent even in the Definitive Edition which I played it on. The screen would randomly just freeze or turn white whenever I open up the menu. Some other cons are the dungeons. When Lord of Bone tells you to collect his 3 servants, it was the most boring part of the game as the entire mechanic of controlling the people was repetitive and it was easily worn out. Another thing I didn't enjoy was the final boss, Absalom, who was possibly the easiest boss in the game and it was incredibly underwhelming after so much stuff that Death had already gone through to get to him. Anyway, those were some of my problems, but there's quite a few more that a lot of other people have already spoken about. Overall, I enjoy this game. Even for all of its minor and major flaws, this game is still in the top 10 list for me. It does quite a few things surprisingly well for a game that originally came out in 2012. I also love the soundtrack in this game, it's so beautiful. But anyway, that about wraps up this video, so see ya fellows. This is Nate signing off to go play with this Dingaloy.